I'll now hand it over and then we'll have time for a Q&A.
Mary, thank you very much. I'd first like to hand it over to hi Glenda, Mayor Tory to say a few words.
Well, I've said this a few times in the last few days, and thank you very much for coming out, but you can't say it often enough to say thank you to Paddy and the Collision team for being here in Toronto again. It has the advantage of being the first large international gathering of its kind, of course, post the pandemic. And I think if people understood even the symbolic importance of it, it is beyond comprehension in terms of giving the city a shot in the arm, giving the tech ecosystem a shot in the arm. I don't think the tech ecosystem really missed a beat in many different respects, but everybody went through the hardships that you're all very familiar with. And so Collision is something that is very timely in terms of our sort of charting a path out of the pandemic and into what I hope will be a very strong recovery. I should say just one other thing, and that is this. I am, when I look at the numbers, and Paddy's team have been good about putting them out, and you see an attendance not just at the first, but a huge by any measure. It was pre-pandemic, we had 35,000 people sign up. This is an impressive meeting, with people from across North America and around the world. I look at the presence of women in the roster of speakers, which is increasing. I look at the startups, 50% increase over what was here before in 2019. And I look at programs like Amplify. I mean, this is something that we really believe in here. We are making a huge effort to make sure that our tech ecosystem in the entire city becomes more inclusive. And Collision is on that same wavelength. They were before they came here, and they still are, and we're working together to amplify, which I think is a good thing. And finally, I'll just say that it is my fervent wish, and I've said this in the question and answer session I had this morning, I said it in the brief opening remarks I made yesterday. I really would like to see some of the output of this conference to be how we can use technology and the smart people that are here and the enterprises that are represented here from around the world to meaningfully address some of our non-technical, non-business challenges. We have as a world, Toronto, I'm familiar with what's going on here more so than anywhere else in the world, but I look at the division, I look at the climate change challenge, I look at the challenge presented by poverty and people being marginalized, and on the list goes. And I say to myself, these are people here, yes, who are here about technology and about what they can be doing to share ideas with each other, but they also represent a reservoir of intelligence and ingenuity and creativity that can help us solve a lot of the problems. And I hope that that becomes something that is one of the sort of outputs of Collision 2022 in Toronto, because we sure need the help. I say we, Toronto does, but so does the rest of the world. Paddy, thank you again for being here. I'm just most grateful, and I'm already looking forward to next year. I was asking you questions in there about it.
Mayor, thank you so much. Your ability to absorb and remember every little detail about Collision frightens me. It's quite incredible. I've got all the notes written down. Just a few highlights. We've 39% female speakers. There's a 50% surge in startups that are exhibiting outside. We've over 35,000 attendees. We've 350 women-led startups exhibiting over the next 3 days, which is by far the highest number of women-led startups in our history. The number of Collision attendees has grown by 40% from 2019. We were very nervous when we had to pause effectively over the last 3 years that we'd lose all of the momentum. We were so thrilled to be in Toronto and had an amazing first year in 2019. And we've all been through an incredibly tough last kind of 2 and a bit years, and it's just phenomenal to be back. 44.3% of the attendees at this year's event are women. In total, there are 1,557 startups exhibiting from 74 countries, including Mongolia, Nigeria, South Africa, and Brazil. A couple of things to call out before we open up to questions. As the Mayor mentioned, community initiatives that we run work to amplify voices from underrepresented communities. For the first time ever, Collision has run the Indigenous Attendee Program, designed to amplify the voices of Indigenous people, build respect for relationships with Indigenous communities in Canada, and build a more just tech ecosystem. Last night on Centre Stage, we heard from some of those startups, and again over the course of today and tomorrow. A number of startups received bursaries to exhibit at the event, and dozens of attendees will be joining the event using complimentary tickets as part of the overall program. There's a number of other highlights as well. Through Amplify, which the Mayor mentioned, we've more than 200 startups participating in the program. There's also 274 impact startups that are working to advance the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And that's it. We've been very fortunate to be able to increase the number of floor space that we're using for the event from just under 50,000 square meters to 77,000 square meters. I think outside, where we've more than 20 food trucks, combined with the weather that I can't believe Toronto actually has in June, is just fantastic. And there are just thousands of people outside right now enjoying great food, great sunshine, and best of all, great networking, which we've all been deprived of for so long. So finally, it's just great to be back. A huge thank you to the Mayor and all of his team and the city who've helped us pull this event together in a very short space of time. It's been phenomenal. We might open to questions.
Just before we take questions, the first time I've ever disagreed with him, I have no idea what he's talking about with the weather. It is like this every day, 365 days a year here, 366 in leap year. So I have no idea about your reference to the weather in June. It's always like that here. So I hope you'll correct the record in that regard. Don't we wish? Anyway.
Cool. So just want to raise your hand.
Yeah, hello. Thank you, Paddy. Thank you, John Tory. My name is Saeed Henry from Media in Toronto. Let's add up some numbers and statistics for the list that you mentioned concerning the topics, the sessions. Pre-COVID and post-COVID, there are lots of new industries that are coming up. Can you mention some of them that you can highlight from them?
Yeah, I'll mention two in particular that I know there's a huge amount of interest. So the first, I mean, it's not entirely new, it's just the directionality of the sector, which is crypto. It was going up and up until very recently, and now it's going down very fast. And there's a huge amount of interest in understanding what exactly is going on. We had a number of notable crypto speakers who aren't here because of events over the last week. The founder of Celsius is a good example. There's more than 12 billion in customers' funds, which is locked up and nobody can withdraw it. And I think many of the journalists here, many of the people on stage are interested in digging into that topic, and of course the attendees want to hear some answers. The second topic I will say is work from home. It couldn't be more different pre-pandemic, post-pandemic. Of course, even within our company, we had entire teams and managers who were working from home prior to the pandemic, but for most companies it was an alien concept, and that's changed dramatically. Thank you.
And can I just add to that? I think that what's going to go on here in terms of discussion of that very topic, the second one that Paddy mentioned, work from home and the future of work, I broadened it out to that, is going to be one of the most profound discussions we're going to have over probably the next couple of years. Because, it isn't just about people's personal preferences, it isn't just about company policy, it's about the spin-off effect that can have. In Toronto, for example, if people don't come back to work on Mondays and Fridays, at the moment people are, not surprisingly, perhaps picking to work Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and not Mondays and Fridays, but forget the days. For us, running a transit system, for example, if we are dealing with 2 days in which very much smaller numbers of people come to work, that has a profound financial implication for us, and a profound implication on the city. And so these are big questions. I could go on and cite 10 examples of why the future of work and trying to figure out where it's going and how technology is going to play a part in that. These are hugely profound social and economic and business issues for business, but also for government. And it's something that I'm going to be appointing a group to take a look at in the coming days and have a really deep dive look at it and try and figure out what's going on, because I don't think anybody knows the answer at the moment, including the people who are involved in it. I think they sort of know what their preference is today, but it's a big issue, and I'm glad it's being discussed here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Stephen Wenzel, Rabble.ca. As you know, data is a very important part of technology. Black community members are still disproportionately the victims of use of force by Toronto police. More than 90% of all use of force incidents in the year 2020 were the result of a reactive policing encounter. That's an average of 2.3 use of force incidents each and every day. Mr. Mayor, do you take responsibility for the police violence happening on your watch?
Well, I'm the mayor of the city, and I'm a member of the police board, and I have been during the time I've been mayor. So in that sense, obviously, all of these things that happen, you have to have a degree of responsibility for it. I don't run the police service on a day-to-day basis, but I'm part of the oversight board, and I am the mayor. And I will just tell you that I find those numbers, as I indicated earlier this week, I find them unacceptable. I am happy at the fact that there are a large number of reforms that are underway. I'm happy at the fact we're measuring this data and reporting it publicly so that we can all, collectively, all of us, be held to account. And I will have more to say about this at the police board meeting tomorrow, where this report will be taken up. But I believe that we have to move to even more action, and we have to move to even more accountability for what is clearly not a state of affairs any of us can accept, which is that any one group, whether it be black or indigenous or other, and there are a number of groups, as you know, that are represented in the over-represented groups, that can't be the way we're doing law enforcement. We have to do policing better in many different respects, and the police, by the way, are in many of these areas completely on board with making the changes. But I think we have to make them faster, and we have to make more of them. And you know, I won't accept sole responsibility, but of course, I'm the mayor and I'm the police board member, so of course, I know we have to do better.
Hi Paddy, how are you doing? I'm wondering, first of all, if you could tell us, you know, I mean, you've been talking about collision being bigger this year. I mean, how big can it realistically grow to, and how committed are you to Toronto? And just a secondary question is, have you had many people asking you about your T-shirt, and have you been explaining it to them?
Sure. Two great questions. Well, three actually. So first of all, I believe the entire site is approximately 200 acres. So whilst the venue itself, the exhibition halls, they're at maximum capacity, I think in creative ways the overall footprint of the event can potentially increase quite substantially. As regards our future here, you know, I know there are cities from all over North America and Mexico that are here. We're absolutely here next year. As regards 2024 and beyond, I hope to stay in Toronto. I think we've got a fantastic working relationship, and we've really fallen in love with the city. So you know, we shall see. And the final thing is, I'm just wearing a T-shirt which is a media outlet in Ireland that does kind of hard investigative journalism. That's it.
Can I just say on the size, Paddy and I were just chatting, we've chatted a little bit before, you know, the size of the tech portion of the conference is something that's expandable, but I also have thoughts of taking it into other areas and perhaps expanding it into a sort of parallel or concurrent arts and culture festival. I mean, I think all of these things are very much intertwined. You know, the creativity and innovation of the tech sector is, I think, a good fit with artists and artistry and music and so on. And so, you know, there's every reason to believe we could do something like that, and you could do it very close to this site. Like this is as Paddy said, a big site. I think of food. I mean, I know it's a strange sort of thing, and there's lots of food that's being offered here, but I think of you know, ways in which you could sort of plug these people from all over the place into what's a very interesting culinary scene here because of the diversity of the city. So you know, these are the kinds of things we'll talk about you know, when we get this one behind us, and see whether there are things we could do that are innovative and bigger in that sense next year. But then I would also, of course, like to talk to him about years to follow, and see what we could do to make this an irresistible proposition for him. And I'm not trying to negotiate against myself in saying that, but I just like to properly present something so appealing and so unique because of Toronto's uniqueness that they will really want to stay here. So we'll see. You know, I'm looking forward to those discussions.
So we have time for one more question.
We can take the two of them bunched together maybe and get to everybody.
Okay, yes, great. First of all, I think the idea with the food is brilliant. I don't find it strange at all. I'm Carla from Portugal, and I cover tech. And my question is, the world is currently in a status of uncertainty. We have the recent war in Europe. We have the pandemic that is still affecting lots of companies. And we've seen recently that there are a lot of startups that are losing jobs and are firing people, and there are investors that are investing less. Is this something that you've noticed? What is the impact for Web Summit's companies and Web Summit's events, and what can Collision and the sister events do?
It's a very good question. So far, the pattern, and I published the kind of data on ticket sales, and I would say there's a strange counter-cyclical relationship that as the markets have grown more uncertain, and investors have grown more uncertain, and startups have grown more uncertain, there's been a flight towards, in our case, a very large tech conference, because I think in moments of uncertainty, people seek out answers, and they want to understand the sentiment within their industry or their community, and they want to find answers that are going to be relevant to the existence or the success of their business. So far, both with Web Summit and certainly with Collision, it's been far greater interest than we were expecting, even as late as February. If you go back to the last recession, business events were oddly counter-cyclical. So by the time 2009 came around and the market was beginning to reach its bottom, business events had already recovered, with the exception of luxury trade events. If you were selling luxury yachts in Cannes in 2009, it was a particularly bad year, but with that exception. So will the same pattern hold if we enter into a very serious and profound recession? The evidence from 2008 would seem to suggest yes. It just happens to be the nature of events. And there was just a last question, I think, and then.
Thank you so much for taking my question. My name is Jasmine Kara. I'm from BNS News. I work a lot with young entrepreneurs, and when I say young, I mean as young as 4 years of age. And they have some brilliant ideas. I was wondering if there are any initiatives in the works for local entrepreneurs who are in elementary grades, and maybe something upcoming in the next Collision that they can look forward to?
That's a great question. We do a program for several hundred high school students. I think it could be, is it the Knowledge Society? I'm not entirely sure. We've never done anything for elementary kids, and that's absolutely something we should think about, and it's a great idea. So we'll look into that.
I will add that to food and to music and the arts, because I think it's a really interesting idea, sort of Collision for kids. And can I just say on the subject of the future, I think we could be, and I don't know what we're going to go through. I don't use that R word because I don't want to acknowledge that that's a possibility, but it could be. But I think whatever we go through, I think there could be a new renaissance time for startups, because I think the people that will be hurt are the people that are kind of in the middle, that raised a lot of money and invested a lot of money in enterprises that didn't get to the stage they needed to be before this huge dislocation took place. And I think that there could be a whole new renaissance for startups in markets like this and many other places in the world. And so I'm an optimist about these things. I mean, you have to be in my line of work, but I'm an optimist when I look at all the smart people and all the ideas they have and all the money that's out there. Let's remember one thing: the money, regardless of what times you go through in the economy, the money is still out there. I mean, from people who need to invest in something. And so I like the chances of people who are going to come forward with new ideas. They're going to start off. There'll be a great selection process that goes on, but nonetheless, I think a lot of those people will benefit from the uncertainty, because the money's out there and because we're going to start a new kind of renaissance for some of those kinds of businesses. So that's me being optimistic, but I just see so many ideas and so much money, and I think they'll match up, because they always do.
Hear, hear. I agree with that thoroughly. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you very much to the Mayor as well.